I want to speak to anyone here who is weary, burdened, or facing a storm in life that seems too big to bear. Life has a way of shaking us. Sometimes it's the loss of a job, a strained relationship, sickness, or even just the weight of daily pressures. You may feel as though the ground beneath your feet is slipping away. But the psalmist reminds us of a truth that can anchor our souls. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Notice the word refuge. A refuge is a safe place, a fortress where we can find protection from the storms of life. The psalmist doesn't say God might be there, or sometimes helps. He says, God is our refuge and strength. That means in every storm, He is already present. He is not distant. He does not watch from afar while we struggle. He is very present, the very present help in trouble. Verse 2 says, Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Let that sink in. Even if everything familiar in your life is overturned, even if what you thought was stable is suddenly gone, you do not have to fear. Fear loses its power when we remember who our God is. He is the immovable refuge, the stronghold that cannot be shaken. And in verse 3, we read, Though the waters thereof roar. Life is noisy and chaotic at times. The waters may roar with anxiety, confusion, and pain. But the psalmist reminds us that roaring waters cannot defeat God. The storm may rage around you, but your refuge is greater than the storm. I know some of you are thinking, but Grace, my storm feels too big. My pain is too deep. I understand. I have seen storms that felt impossible to endure. And yet, this psalm tells us we are not alone. God does not promise a storm-free life. He promises His presence through it. When the waters roar, He is your anchor. When the mountains fall, He is your unshakable fortress. So, what do we do when life is overwhelming? First, run to Him. Seek refuge in prayer, in His word, and in the fellowship of His people. Second, remember His strength. You do not have to fight alone. God's power sustains you even when your strength fails. Third, refuse fear. Trust that He is working even in the chaos. Psalm 46 ends later by saying, Be still and know that I am God. Be still. In the middle of your storm, pause. Breathe. Remember who holds the world, who holds you. Let His presence calm your heart and remind you that this storm will not define you and it will not destroy you. So today, if you are struggling, hear this. God is your refuge. He is your strength. He is with you right now in the midst of your storm. Do not fear. Stand firm. Lean into Him and let His peace rise above the roar of the waters.